Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Good Dram Show with me, Chris Goodrum. Right, this afternoon, back to whiskey. Right, okay, so yes, as you can see, back to the usual format, 4 whiskies in front of me, but not Scottish. No, we're looking at yet another world whiskey. The reason we're looking at this is because the rep dropped in and paid me a visit a few weeks ago, and kindly left me some samples to evaluate, as these are, as far as I'm aware, pretty much brand new to the UK market. So what's the distillery? Well, the distillery is the Old Hobart Distillery in Australia. So just grabbing the book, I'll give you a little bit of information about them, because I hadn't heard of them. I'd heard of a couple of Australian distilleries. What was the one that I tasted? Sullivan's Cove is the only other one that I've tasted, which I tasted for the World Whisky Awards, which seemed to suffer from pretty much the same thing as a lot of these new distilleries whiskies tend to suffer from, and the fact that it was just bottled far too young, and a complete lack of character, really. But anyway, we're not talking about that. We're talking about the Old Hobart Distillery in Blackman's Bay, Tasmania, to be precise. The distillery was set up by a chap called the name Casey Overeen, and the range is named Overeen. So that's where that came from. Distillery started in 2007, and was the distillery was helped to be built by a chap called Bill Lark, who runs the Lark Distillery, which is apparently the other well-known distillery in Tasmania. So that's incidentally, the mashing and the fermentation is carried out at the Lark Distillery, with Casey Overeen specifying his mash bill and his choice of yeast. Interesting enough, according to this, which I didn't know before I originally tasted the particular whiskies, is that it's the mash is made from a mixture of 50% peated and 50% unpeated barley. Although the peated barley is unusual in that it's instead of being peated in the normal kilning process, it's peated after it's been malted. Unusual. And I must admit, there was only one when I originally tasted it that I picked up a little bit of peat and thought, oh, this is almost peaty, but didn't, and thought, oh, maybe there's a little bit of peat in there, but certainly the other ones didn't come across like that. But anyway, I'm waffling. Apparently, once it's been fermented, the wash is taken over to the Old Hobart Distillery, where it's distilled in the wash still, which holds 1,800 litres, and 600 litre spirit still. It's then matured in ex-bourbon, port and sherry casks. Now, like a lot of distilleries, they want to get a product out, and I believe that all 4 of these are from a 2007 distillation, so makes it about 5 years old, I would guess. And what they do is they age them in French oak sherry casks and French oak port casks. These casks have been broken down from the larger size into quarters. So you get a quicker maturation, you get sort of, lots of wood character very quickly, very early on. So, and they really, all 4 of them are released as single cask bottlings, it'll be interesting to see. Like I said, they're all sherry quarters. I've tasted a few of them before, and you have to be really, really careful with that kind of stuff, because they pick up the wood so quick. It's very intensely woody, and well, anyway, we'll get onto that you know, when we start tasting them. So I think it's about time to introduce the lineup then. Right. Okay. So as I was saying, we've got two different whiskies. These two have been aged in, like I said, French oak sherry cask quarters, and these two have been aged in French oak port casks, or port quarters, I should say. Two bottlings, like I said. One is bottled at 43%. This particular one is cask OHD 30, and this one is bottled at 60%, and the same for the other two. This is cask OHD 32. The 43% port cask is OHD 27, and the 60% is OHD 29. So yeah, could be interesting. Let's crack on and taste the first one then, shall we? Right, okay, so this has spent its entire 5 years or so in a sherry quarter cask, 43%. Let's have a look. A lot of sherry, which is not exactly surprising, it has to be said. Quite herbal, a bit sort of boiled sweet. There's a bit of almost neutrally sort of spirit character there as well, but it's all herbal. It's all very sweet. It's all, you know, boiled sweets, confectionery. Plenty of wood spice. But it's not a great deal else, it has to be said, and frankly I'm not amazingly surprised that there's not an awful lot of spirit character at all. I mean, you wouldn't expect it at all. But it's good clean sherry, I'll give it that. There's no sulphur blemishes, you know, and it's, you know, if you're the sort of person that likes this kind of style, you're going to appreciate it, you know. Palate. Very grainy, very almost like a grain whiskey in actual fact. It just has that grainy intensity and neutrally sort of character. Slightly earthy, again a lot of wood, a lot of drying tannins, dried fruits, licorice, a little bit of chocolate now coming through on the finish, but it's a bit short, you know, it's a bit, you know, it's a bit of a sherry monster really, it has to be said. I mean, again, like I said, it's very clean, pleasant, rich, full, but I'm not getting a great deal of spirit character. Like I said, it had the only kind of spirit character I'm sort of getting is a bit of a kind of a neutral grainy kind of character, which is interesting. It has to be said, but it's okay. It is what it is, I guess, is the easiest way of describing it. Right, okay, let's have a look at the cask strength bottling. As you can see from the colour, it's a lot darker. I don't think dilution has kind of taken away the colour. This is going to be monstrously sherry. I mean, just look at that colour, will you? I mean, it's burnished, you know. Anyway, let's see what the nose gives us then, shall we? Oh, that's raw. Whew. Kind of, sort of reminds me a little bit of the Balcones True Blue or whatever, Baby Blue Corn, sorry. It's raw, it's pungent, licorice, again, sort of that kind of slightly boiled sweet Oloroso character. A little bit of treacle, spices, and you can smell the alcohol. It really is nose prickling stuff. Again, it's you know, it is very, very clean. I mean, there is no blemishes, there's no off notes. The quality is very, very good. But it again, it's all cask. It's just as you would expect. I mean, you can sense there's some spirit there, but you can't taste anything or smell anything. You know, it's just all wood notes. Bit of orange maybe now. Bit of dried fruit. About time. God, that's got some wood. Really dry, tannic, intense. And there's a nice sweetness though. I mean, once that sort of passes, there's a nice sweetness. There's a bit of honey, a bit of dried fruit, a little bit of licorice, treacle. Um, it's not bad. I mean, it's like I said, you have to bear in mind it's about 5 years old. It's spent all 5 years in a sherry quarter cask, and you know it is all going to be about the wood. You know, no real spirit character. It has a raw intensity to it, although it's not unclean. It's not dirty. Yeah, I mean it's pleasant. It is what it is. So I'm going to put a little drop of water with it and see if it turns into the 43% bottling. Oops, that was probably a little bit too much water there, I think. Yeah, it pretty much does, to be honest with you. It's more candied now. There's a little bit of violety sweet notes. Some more spices now. Some dusty, it's like cinnamon. Again then. Yeah, it's a little bit sweeter. It's got a little bit more dried fruit now. Less tannin, less intensity. Softer. Still a little bitterness now on the finish. It's a little bit more intense than the 43% bottling, even with a little drop of water. But there's no real change to it. It's pretty much sherry and a bit more sherry. So right, okay, and on to the port matured. Like I said, again, aged in quarter casks. This will be interesting. Colour is actually quite light in actual fact. I would have expected it to be a lot deeper red, a lot darker than this. So let's see what the nose gives us then, shall we? The port notes are very, very subtle. A little bit of sort of sweet red fruit, a little bit of wininess. But I'm getting more of the, again, that's almost kind of grain-like, almost neutrally sort of spirit character. A bit of spice maybe. Just a little touch of red licorice. It's okay. It's clean spirit. It's good spirit. It's just again, it's all about the wood. Although the wood is very subtle, which is surprising for the fact that it's been aged in a portwood cask. I'd expected it to be, showing an awful lot more port character, but no, it's got an elegance to it. Power. Sweet, juicy, red currants. A little bit of peat now. I'm getting a little bit of peat. A little bit of earthiness. Sweetish kind of peat. yeah, a little bit more spirit character, but it's got that kind of graininess to it. The port wood is very soft, but again, it's all really young. It's all a bit raw. It's a bit, you know, quite spicy. Finish is nice. Got some intense spices to it. Yeah, I mean, it's okay. It's kind of work in progress, I think, and I'll certainly when we sum these up, I'll kind of explain more about what I mean by kind of like work in progress. But on the whole, yeah, I mean, it's not bad. I mean, personally, I don't think it's quite ready, but yeah, again, it is what it is. So. Right, finally we're on to the cask strength bottling, the 60%. This is a lot darker. This is kind of like the colour I would expect something to be, you know, spending sort of 5 or so years in a port cask, sort of tawny red kind of colour. So let's see what this gives us then. That's intense, it's earthy, it's peaty, it's got some sweet red fruits, a little bit of orange, very earthy, quite spicy. Again, it's all about the cask. There is a little bit of, again, you kind of more sense the spirit rather than actually smell it. It doesn't really seem to have, and I mean, I think it would be interesting to see what it's like, because I mean, I imagine they've aged it in bourbon quarters, and according to the rep, that's not going to be released until I think next year. I don't think it's quite ready yet, but it would have been interesting to sort of taste that first to sort of ascertain if or what the character of the actual spirit itself is, because it's pretty neutral. Like I said, it's almost got this kind of like grainy intensity to it. A little bit of perfume now. And some nice dusty spices. I mean, yeah. I mean, I guess. I mean, it's pleasant. It's appealing. It's interesting. I wish there was more spirit character. It has to be said, but you know, you can't fault the quality. So anyway, palate. Whoa, yeah, that's a hit. Whoa, ooh, ooh, peat, wood and tannin, alcohol. Oh, wow. Oh, spicy. Really, quite spicy aftertaste, but I mean that packs a hell of a punch. I mean that's kind of impressive. It has to be said. But yeah, it's all kind of earth, peat, tannin, bit of spicy fruit. It's a bit short, but then that's again down to the tannins and the alcohol. It does linger though, sort of getting kind of burnt wood, and a little bit of treacle, possibly. Yeah, that's intense. Cool. Let's see what a drop of water does to it, shall we? That's still pretty intense. Really earthy, quite peaty, herbal, cherries. In actual fact, I think this cask is better integrated, should we say. Again, I mean, yes, it's still all about the cask, but it doesn't quite seem as disjointed as the 43%. You're not getting so much of that slightly sort of herbal spirit character. Again, quite sweet, quite fruity. Yeah, it's okay. Let's try the palate again. still quite intense actually. Really spicy. The fruit has got a little bit of a confected character, sort of granulated, sugary, sort of red fruit, some spice, a little bit of bitter tannin. Yeah, that's intense. It's cask, isn't it? You know, and although I think it's better integrated than the 43% bottling, it's still no real sort of spirit character. Again, it's all about the port cask. But like I said, there's no off notes. It's clean. The quality is very good. And so that, you know, if you like that kind of style, I think you'd obviously appreciate that. So yeah, okay, interesting. Right, okay, so let's sum up this little tasting. I think it's always going to be difficult, you know, aging anything in smaller casks, in quarter casks, is always going to give you big wood, basically, big wood in a fraction of the time, and so far I think the most successful bottling is obviously the Lefroy quarter cask. For some reason it doesn't overly do it. It kind of gives it a maturity, but it also keeps a sort of a youthful freshness to it, and it doesn't seem to over oak it. And my personal opinion, what I think they should have done with these, I think it's difficult with the two sherried ones, because the sherry is just so intense, and it's blanketing any distillery character. What I think they should have done with the port is I think they should have basically taken it out of the quarter casks and then put it into larger casks, either port casks, or probably better still, put them into larger bourbon casks. It would have rounded things off. It would have added a little gentle vanillins. It would have stopped it being so intensely woody. You'd have to leave it for a couple more years, maybe 3, and I think it would have just made a more interesting malt. It would have rounded things off, and like I said, it would have allowed the spirit to add some oxidative character, and it would have softened a lot of those sort of like intense wood notes. The other option, I think, would have been to instead of release it, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, they wanted to obviously release it as a single cask bottling to say basically we think these casks are particularly good. Maybe it would have been better to sort of vat it in with some spirit that had been aged in full-size American oak. I don't know. I mean, you know, at the end of the day, it's not my baby. And you know, I think if I owned a distillery, if I did things like this, I would do things slightly different to Casey Overeen that owns a distillery. And you know, it's a difficult one because, and like I said, it was the conversation I was having with Andrew Nelstrup at the English distillery. You want to get some cash rolling. You want to get some money in, and I suppose to a certain extent you want to get your product out. But at the end of the day, there is no escaping the progress of time. You know, whiskey takes time to evolve. Yes, you can shortcut it by sticking it in smaller casks, but it has its drawbacks, it has its limitations, and sometimes you just have to wait and let nature do its thing. You have to wait 8 years, you have to wait 10 years, and for a new distillery starting up, that's a hell of a wait, that's a hell of an investment. Yeah, you can go down the route of doing you know, gins, vodkas, no age statement stuff, and you know, that's fine, but I mean, I think hopefully that the distillery is sort of, you know, setting casks aside, maybe then taking it out of quarters and putting it into larger casks, and going to age it for sort of like 8 to 10 years and just see what happens, you know, because at the moment that you can't really discern a particular spirit character at all. It's all just about the wood, and I suppose, you know, there is going to be a market for it. There are people that love the big the big sherry monsters. There are people that love this sort of like big, sweet, red fruity kind of character. Me, as I've been banging on about for donkey's years, for me it's about the balance. Yes, I like a bit of wood character, but on the other hand, I want some distillery character. I want to know, what the spirit is like. I just don't want to taste it all completely, blanketed by a finish or what have you. So it's a difficult one because I think the quality is good. Certainly the sherry cask has got no no blemishes, no sulphur. So you've got to say, well, hats off. You've done a good job in your cask selection. And like I said, for me, I think a little bit more time, and I would like to see what the character of the actual spirit is. But that's just me, and that's just my kind of preference. So if you're watching, Casey, great job. Good spirit. And I wish you all the success. It's hard work getting a distillery off the ground and getting your whiskey tasted and around the world. And I don't think this is a bad review, and I hope you don't take it as a bad review, because it's not. It's just one person's opinion, and my personal opinion is that it needs a bit more time. But I think if you're interested in looking at sort of the first bottlings from a distillery, then certainly I think this would be interesting to look at. But for me, I just like I said, I think just a little bit more time, maybe a different procedure. Like I said, so anyway, I think I waffled on enough. Probably dug a deep enough hole for myself. I kind of just like to say, well, I hope you enjoyed this episode of the show, and good afternoon and good round.